Sometimes when you are negotiating a real estate transaction, people can act cray-cray. Is that an appropriate way to? They almost act irrationally. And by the way, if you're listening, I am not saying what they're doing is wrong.
Correct.
What I'm saying is it seems wrong to the other party. The other party's going, what the heck is going on? But let's talk about how are we formed as people? Like what happens by what age? This information is fascinating.
I was reading a study, and I don't got it in front of me, but it was a Harvard study about when our programming, how much of our programming is in place by a specific age. So we're all programmed about 50% by the age 4, and then 80% by age 8, and 95% by age 18.
Which is amazing because they say you don't have too many memories like when you're younger than 5, 4, and don't quote me on this, but it's amazing we're still getting formed. So when I'm 18 years old,
95%, the first 20% of your life, you are 95% programmed.
How does this affect negotiation?
So when going into a negotiation and understanding that we're dealing with probably 2, 4, about 6 parties in this, typically 2 sellers, 2 buyers, 2 real estate agents. So we got 6 different people who have different perceptions and have different experiences, different real estate experiences. The agent who understands the empathy side and is able to communicate to their own clients, listen, here's what we have in play. These people don't know you. They don't know your intention. They don't know your heart. They don't know where you're coming from, but they have their own experiences with real estate, and their feedback to you or their reaction to you is just based on that. It's not personal.
And it doesn't mean you're not telling your people because they want this, you have to do this.
Right.
What you're saying is don't judge where they're coming from until you know where they're coming from.
So the setup in any negotiation typically follows like this.
Okay.
An agent takes information from another agent to their client, relays it to their client. The client says, okay, here's my response. They go back to Agent 1. Agent 1 communicates the response to Agent 2. Agent 2 communicates the response to I'm going to say the other party over here. It's like the telephone game.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So in negotiations, I perceive what you said to me this way, so then I'm going to explain it based on my perception. They're going to perceive what I said to them this way, and they're going to explain it based upon their own perception.
So you got 4 different, and sometimes 6, different perceptions of things in play.
Yeah.
So the buyer can say, I want this. The buyer's agent perceives it this way. Then they communicate it to the seller's agent. They perceive it that way. Then it gets communicated to the sellers, and it's perceived in an entirely different way.
Totally different. The inflection of tone, the words could be triggering. I recently had a transaction where I represented the seller, and the buyer agent kept coming to me, and she would respond and say things, and I just knew, I'm like, something's off here. Either you're not explaining what I'm saying very well to your clients, because their reaction should not be that based upon what I'm telling you, or what you're coming back with to me at is an interpretation.
And if I remember, this was something to do with like a little repair or something like that.
Like $500.
Yeah. What was it that they were worried about and what wound up happening? Because I remember you actually had a conversation with the buyer, I think.
Did. I bypassed I asked for permission. Yeah. Can we get on a Zoom? I would like to speak to them myself.
Yeah.
And it was a dishwasher repair. The buyer did not feel that the seller had, I would say, enough motivation to want to work with them. So the buyer had a feeling, when I got to the heart of it, the buyer had a feeling that the seller was just hard-headed and did not have just enough motivation to want to work with them. And the buyer couple, they had their own, background and history, and so they were already mentally predetermined that these sellers may have something against their relationship.
They had in their mind that these sellers were up to no good, and the reality is the sellers were up to good.
Yeah, they were.
And if once you explained it to the buyer and gave a little bit of humanity, gave a little bit of personalness to it, I know that's not a word, maybe it is a word, then it made all the difference in the world.
It made, and the buyers even told me, they're not my clients, but they said this phone call was huge.